obviously, as like first undergraduate psychology degree here at Texas State. And I also work as a peer support specialist in the mental health field for 2 years now. I just do my capstone project on a somatic therapy curriculum. I also had to pivot partway through the project because I realized I wanted to create like a CEU unit for therapists, and that was going to become a little bit difficult to get approved in time. So we focused on a gathering for therapists that are trained in somatic modalities, whether that's dance movement therapy. Some of them had somatic experiencing, but because I've been around a lot of therapists in my mental health work and different nonprofit organizations and friendships, I started noticing there was a big problem where I was running into therapists that had a lot of training and a lot of fear around actually exercising those, actually creating somatic or movement or body-based therapies for their clients. And so I decided to start a working group to try to work through some of those issues. I'm also an undergraduate minor in dance therapy here at Texas State, not dance therapy, dance, one day maybe. So I'm going to start off talking about some of the research around somatic therapies and why I'm really passionate about it. Then the application, what we tried to do to help implement that, the community aspect of our meetings, and then a retreat and education-based aspect of the meetup, and then the focus that we have on ongoing support for somatic practitioners. So as I kind of already stated, there is a huge influx of therapists becoming certified and entering the field that are really passionate about somatic therapies because it's becoming more trendy, but that's also because a lot more research has been done over the last like 10 years around somatic therapies. Obviously, the book known as The Body Keeps the Score came out, which documented how much trauma healing can happen when we focus on bottom-up approach, which is focusing on body work and focusing on bottom-up modalities of therapy, but there just hasn't been a lot of time for that to catch up in the therapeutic field. So I focus a lot of my undergraduate essays on these studies for that reason. That there was a big study that came out, and I do not have it cited, so I do apologize, but there was a big study that came out that many of y'all may be familiar with that cited movement in general, including exercise. It included dance, it included running, and all different types of exercises, and compared them against medications that people were taking for depression and also talk therapy. And it found that movement-based therapies to be the top treatment for depression. But what I don't see commented on as much was that out of those movement therapies, dance was the top treatment for depression. And that got me very curious, also because I have my own personal experience with dance therapy as treating for PTSD. I listed down here other prominent trainings that have been coming out over the last few decades: EMDR, somatic experiencing, mindfulness, as was mentioned by our last presenter, as sort of bottom-up, body-based therapies. So within the dance program, I have the opportunity of working with Amanda McCorkle, who is a somatic dance expert. She focuses her somatic education on dancers, on how that can help people better perform, better teach. But she's also very well aware of like the mental health aspect of that. She practices Laban and Bartenioff fundamentals, and a host of other things. It becomes difficult when you collect as many trainings as she has, as you've spoken with me about, because you start to realize, the parallels and start implementing everything into your trainings. And so she runs a course here at Texas State called Somatic Movement, but it's for dancers, for dance teachers. And this semester I was her teacher's assistant, and I got to help get behind the scenes look at how do we teach teachers? How do we teach people that are trying to not just learn these experiences in their own bodies, but how do we teach people who do not have kind of any experience with somatics or what it is? I found that with Amanda McCorkle, the things that she was teaching us in an undergraduate dance minor class were having these huge results. Like people were having mental health breakthroughs and like anxiety breakthroughs and PTSD breakthroughs, more so than like my therapist friends were able to do with their dance movement therapy education, their somatic experiencing, their LPCs, they have been through counseling PhDs, counseling masters and graduate, and we're still struggling to lead these classes. So one thing that, it didn't surprise me at all, because I know that dancers spend a lot of their time in their body, and somatic therapy cannot be something that that we can just absorb with theory and like in our mind. Like you read a bunch of the research papers and that's all well and good, but if you don't have the experience of moving through that daily like a dancer would, like a dance teacher, you don't collect the wisdom maybe in a way that is easy to transmit and help another person who's going through mental health issues to work through. So the monthly somatic meetings were born. A group of somatic therapists meeting monthly to practice their newly learned somatic techniques, or things we learned a long time ago but don't feel ready to share with a client yet. To physically move the fear through our bodies and share education around how to teach. Because understanding somatics is one thing, teaching or guiding someone through it is something else entirely. I'm gonna move back through this. This is a picture of one of our retreats where I took some of what Amanda was helping me learn on how to teach teachers. Basically, a lot of it is based on a book that's called, I don't know, it'd be great if I put that on the slide, but there's a book that teaches somatic education for teenagers. And one reason I wanted to use that with the therapists is because it starts where someone may not know anything about bodywork. They may have never heard of mindfulness, they may have never heard of EMDR, any of these complex words, but was starting with the basics. So it was a series of activities that start with breath work, or we have mirroring activities where you have two people sitting face to face, one begins to make a movement, and another is to mirror that movement as they see it, not in an exact copy, but it's to say, what does that mean to you? If someone moves their arm forward, I'm seeing, an arching forward. And we continue this mirroring activity that is guided by a facilitator, and it's helping some people who have struggled to be in their bodies, to attune to one another, and yet it's a very accessible entry point for people that all the theory and all the language may be a little bit not as helpful. There's other activities such as visualization, where we have people, balancing, seeing to see if they can close their eyes and balance on one leg. A lot of people struggle with that because of like proprioception. And then we have people, it's interesting because to speak on somatic experiencing, because it's like, again, as I'm talking about, quite a different world from being in the body and doing it. Part of me is like, let's get down on the floor, but we're not gonna do that right now. So yeah, there's you learning to mirror, you're learning proprioception. There's the standing and balancing. Standing and balancing. And so when you're noticing that you're not able to hold yourself up, say, because you struggle with proprioception, you struggle bumping into things, that can be disassociation from the body. And moving into a guided facilitation where we're saying, all right, now imagining that your feet are like stuck in the sand. We start with our guided meditation. Closing your eyes, imagining that your feet are rooted into the sand, and there's a balloon attached to your head that's lifting you. We start again, we have someone balance, and then they are balanced now perfectly. Based on this activity, visualization is a technique for embodiment rather than a lot of talking through. And I saw a lot of people releasing emotion, and they weren't sure where that was coming from. A lot of people feeling open to others, of people understanding boundaries, and others how to move the needle from awareness and education. So with the help of Amanda McCorkle's wonderful Somatic dance course, focuses on teaching somatics, I was able to translate a dance teacher's somatic curriculum into something that could be useful to therapists. It isn't surprising to me that dancers had something to teach therapists. Counselors spend years in academic spaces learning important theory, but how many have the training to embody that in education with the client? Instead, there's a cultural feel left over from puritanical culture that dance and embodiment is somehow unholy. To rid ourselves of that, the only thing we can do is to practice, not for a few months in a program, but weekly, monthly, in community, in a space where we can grow our craft. So the continuing community. The working group is set up to happen once a month, and we also have a chat for the community to share resources and share when we're going to be announcing our own somatic circles or trying to meet with clients. But more than that, we start our groups getting together and sharing with us what we're doing with the clients, but then we move into, as I was sharing, like the actual activities with each other. We practice facilitating, and we're practicing being in our own bodies. Because something that my teacher talks about a lot is that the wisdom of embodiment is that we are in our own bodies. We're sharing that with a client. We're sharing with them, how do you regulate? I'm mirroring that with you. And we can't mirror that embodiment and that groundedness, that relatedness, that secure attachment, unless we are also in the practice. So this is not just a continuing community for learning how to teach and learning how to hold space for others, but it's also a continuing community that you are also dedicated to your own practice of embodiment, and we can't do that without a continuing community supporting each other. I'm going to end with a quote from a therapist that regularly attends. We have to embody work before we can ask our clients to do the same. This group gave me the opportunity to do not only that, but also to viscerally experience the